Yeah. So we are in study number 160, the rich fool. All right. So I think we all know what rich means. Rich means you have abundance. Well, what is a fool? The Bible describes a fool as a person that does not know his creator. A fool has said in his heart, there is no God. So a fool does not know where he comes from, and because he does not know where he comes from, he does not know where he's going. And so when you are rich and you have been blessed with abundance, and once again, a lot of times we try to say that richness is abundance, and we usually categorize that in the frame of what? Money. But you can be rich in a lot of things and still yet be foolish. All right. So when you have abundance and you don't recognize that your abundance is a gift of the grace of God, of the grace of God, there's a problem there. And so we're going to talk about that as we go through this. And Jesus is pointing this out, and I think it's important that we listen to what he's saying, all right, about this. And he's going to give this parable, and it's going to talk a lot about how life for us sometimes can be if we're not focused on the Lord. Let's take a listen.
Story 160, The Rich Fool. And he spoke a parable to them, saying, The field of a certain rich man produced well. And he was thinking within himself, saying, What will I do? Because I do not have a place where I will gather together my fruits. And he said, I will do this. I will take down my storehouses, and I will build larger ones, and I will gather together there all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Rest, eat, drink, and be merry. And God said to him, Foolish one, this night they are requiring your soul from you, and the things you prepared, to whom will they belong? So is the one who is treasuring up for himself, and he is not rich toward God.
All right. Did they give us less chairs today?
I took two.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering. I was like, I feel like we kind of short on chairs today. All right. So we were looking at this story, 160, and we're looking at this rich fool. And the first thing I'm going to point out, I'm going to read this again, but I want to put emphasis on why this person is considered a fool. All right. From the description that Jesus gave in this parable. Now watch how I read this. And he speaking of Jesus, spoke a parable to them, saying, so Jesus is giving them a parable, a story that's bringing out a point. All right? Saying, the field of a certain rich man produced well. So this man had a field that was doing very well. All right, now look. And he was thinking within himself, saying, what will I do? Because I do not have a place where I will gather together my fruits. And he said, I will do this. I will take down my storehouses, and I will build larger ones, and I will gather together all my grain and my goods, and I will say to my soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Rest, eat, drink, and be merry. All right. What's the issue here? It's all about him, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not once did he look at this and say, what could be done that could help you or them or those or the others. All he was focused on was, I'm doing this for me. Now, the very first description that Jesus gave of the situation was that the man had a field that produced well. So when you're doing well, and number one, when you're doing well, you should be able to do what? Think.
Be thankful.
And who do we thank?
Praise God.
But the fool said in his heart, what? There is no God. So therefore, he's not thinking about God. He's thinking about what? Because generally, when you don't want to acknowledge God, you put who in the place of God? Yourself. You become your own God. Right? And you worshiping what you do, and that's what he's doing here. He's focusing all about what he does, not realizing that God has blessed him. See, when he looks at the fact that his field produced well, all right, and I don't know what he had in the field. Let's say he had some wheat and some grain, some barley. Okay, number one, was he the inventor? Does he have the patent on wheat and grain and barley? It wasn't his invention, right? Did he make the dirt? Did he say let them? So the dirt was already there before he was born, and it's still there after he's what? After he's got. And so, and the mechanism by which a seed turns from a seed into a stalk of grain or a stalk of corn or a stalk of wheat, he produced that mechanism? Okay. So then, all of that then should help him to realize I'm being blessed by circumstances and situations that are outside of my actual control. I didn't do this. I didn't invent this procedure. I didn't invent these processes, but yet I'm being blessed. So it should produce a sense of what? Thankfulness. But what did it produce for him? Selfishness. Because he's not recognizing. He's just thinking this is just how it's supposed to be. I got this. I'm like this. I was given this because that's who I am. I did it. And some people, they go through life thinking, well, this is what I have done. Now, it is good to take what God's given you and build upon it, because Jesus told another parable about the individuals that were given the various numbers of talents. And the one that buried his talent and did nothing with it, the Lord Jesus called him a wicked and unprofitable servant. So when God gives you something, you should what? Use the talent. But you should never use the talent with the understanding that you did it on your own. Remember, the talents were given to individuals and they went and multiplied it. So when God gives you a talent, you are supposed to develop it, you are supposed to utilize it, but you're also supposed to recognize that it is what? God given. God blessed you. And so his problem is himself. But Jesus addresses it. And so he goes on. Because the man thinks he's got it made now, right? He's going to build these bigger barns, and he's going to have this great retirement, and he's going to have all this stuff laid up for him, and he's going to rest, eat, drink, and be merry. Right? So by the time he hits retirement, life's going to be wonderful, right? He's living a dream. Wait a minute, ain't that kind of what we do today? That's basically how our structure is set up. We're gonna do all we can, and we're gonna do this, and then by the time we get a certain age, we're gonna live a dream. All right, let's pick this apart just a little bit. And by no means am I trying to say that people shouldn't plan for retirement or anything. But what I am trying to say is, let's make sure we understand. Okay, so you're gonna work from the time you're 18 to the time you're what? 65 now. It's got to be 70 now. It used to be 60. Y'all remember? I don't know if y'all remember. I remember it was 60. When I was coming up, they told you work till you get 60. But now people are too healthy around 60, and so now they're moving it up to 65, 64, 70 if you want to get the max, right? All right. Now, when you sign up for your Social Security and you get your money, you work for it, and it was put aside for you. And you decide, okay, I want my money, but I still want to continue to work. I want to continue to work, and I want to, have it because I feel like I'm healthy enough and I want to work. Will they let you do that?
You can.
But they what?
Change the way the money is set up for you now, because you're still bringing in an income, which is they can use it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's changes there, but as far as having an income, there's something you will get back, but it's not exactly everything you were supposed to get. They change the amount, so you can't get the full amount and work. And if you do, then you got to pay taxes again on the money that. Oh, wait a minute. Why am I paying taxes on my own money? That y'all already had and y'all invested and y'all got a whole lot of interest off of. And so, but then, okay, all right. So that's one problem. I just noticed that as a problem.
that you regulate what I can do, how much I can work and what I can do on my own money. If I find a job that is paying me, a good salary, maybe I'm making more in my 70s than I made when I was in my 40s. Now y'all going to penalize my Social Security with I can't take it all. I can take a portion of it, but not all of it. All right. Well, that's kind of odd. Okay. Then, if you work from 18 to 55 and something happened, you don't get the money. But if you got loved ones, so you got a wife or children, they get the money, right? All right. Do they get everything? There's some stipulations in there, isn't it? Okay. So basically, you don't get it all unless you do nothing. Then you get it all. Okay. And you make it to 60, 65, 60, whatever it is, 70, whatever the collect the full amount, and you do nothing. Okay. But then if you don't do anything and you don't be moving out and be active, what's usually going to happen? You start falling apart. And then what happens? Then the end comes quicker, don't it? But then that's kind of the model that they set up. You get the full, you really can't
do anything. So you die early, or most likely you don't collect.
I mean, this is just me. Maybe I'm seeing it oddly, but I'm looking at it. I'm going, how are they setting this up? But see, all of this is like this guy. So if we in our mind live for the so-called promise that they give us, that they try to sell to us, we can get disillusioned when it actually becomes reality, because it's not going to be what a lot of times people think it shall be. Now, and I know some of this because my mom went through some of this, and I saw how when she worked for AT&T for many years, and then she got another good job, and then there was some issues with her Social Security because you're supposed to pay taxes on this, pay taxes on here, and it was a big old thing. So the point I'm making is that the way that our world sells life, work as hard as you can and enjoy it at the end, is a lot like how this guy thinks. This is exactly what he's thinking. I'm going to do all I can. I'm not really thinking about others, but I'm going to do all I can and then at the end I'm going to enjoy it. But then let's look and see what the Lord says here. All right, based on his model, the way he's doing it. And God said to him, foolish one. Right, you're being foolish. This night they are requiring your soul from you. So in other words, he's what? He's going to die. And the things you prepared, to whom will they belong? Right? Who are they going to go to? Okay. So is the one who's treasuring up for himself, and he is not rich towards God. So when your focus is thinking of how I can set my treasure for myself and not how I can use my treasure as a blessing for God. See, am I setting up my treasure or am I using my treasure? Now, this world will tell you, don't use your treasure. Don't try to help people because, and that's they don't say it like that. But what they say, the structure that we have is, you got to build your retirement. You got to build this up. You got to build that. And I'm not saying that you don't have to. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I am saying is, you can't neglect the fact that as you go through life, try to find means in which you can be a help and a blessing to other people. Because that's where the real blessing comes in. That's where the real treasure is. The real treasure is in dealing with the people whom God said he loves. For the scripture tells us, for God so loved the world that he what? Gave his life. And so if God gives his life for the world, don't you feel that God thinks that the people in the world are valuable? So then we should be willing to give, to help. All right? And it's important that we find some commonality to what God sees as valuable. Because oftentimes we see people in the world, and they don't value people. They don't value helping others. Matter of fact, others are the problem. I don't want people around me. I don't want this around me. And there's a ritual back in the day, back in the times of the old patriots, when Moses and different ones were. One of the things that those heathen countries and nations would do was that they would worship their false gods with the intent that these gods would bless their land. But one of the things that they believed that they should do was to take their babies and sacrifice it. And so they would take their babies, and there was a statue like Moloch, one of the things that they would do, one of many, and they would put their babies on this statue and roast the babies to death. And that, in their mind, through their belief, was them saying, look what we'll do, so now you will bless our crops. We get our rain, and so they're doing it for what? For gain. That's the whole reason for they're doing it, so we can have gain. And you bring it all the way back to 2017, and we say, well, thank God we don't do that today. And I go, well, yes, we do, because we do that today. Because when people have children, or I should say, they conceive children, and they say, well, I'm not going to be. In order for me to have a wealthy and healthy life, I have to abort this child so that I can continue to do what? Enjoy and have prosperity. So back then, they would roast the kids on the statue of an idol so they could have what? Prosperity. Today, we abort the child so that we can have what? Prosperity. You see how prosperity can be a problem? It's a problem back then, still a problem today. When you are a fool. See, prosperity in the godly, in the hand of godly individuals, is a great tool that can be used to help others. But when you have prosperity and you're chasing prosperity and you are a fool, then you're going to come out with things that never really help other people and eventually damages yourself. So, you remember the individual that came to Jesus, the rich young ruler? All right, now look at this. He's coming to Jesus because obviously he's not happy. He said, what must I do to gain what? Eternal life. So he's recognizing he's what? Missing something. But then look at the description that is given of him. He's rich, young, and a ruler. So he's got power. He's got the strength of youth. And he had wealth. And he was still what? Unsatisfied. Don't we see that today?
Oh, yeah.
You see all these individuals, they are blessed with stuff, and they have all these different things, and yet they're still unhappy. How many of these singers and different ones that just die young? I mean, Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, Prince, Michael Jackson. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on. All these people that so-called had reached the levels that people try to say, this is where I want to get to. But because they have not connected themselves to the giver of all, who is who? God. Therefore, they still end up what? Void and empty, and they feel it, and they need other stuff, and it's because they don't see, and now they don't see themselves as a blessing. God has given you this so you can bless others. If this individual here could have recognized that God gave him a prosperous field so that he could bless others, because maybe somebody else's field is not as prosperous. Now, he would be useful. He would be appreciated. Instead of him worshiping himself, other people would thank him. Still, he would be mindful to tell people, you're thanking me, but also in doing that, thank God. Because God blessed me, but that's not the road he took. The road he took was, it's all about me. It's all about me. So you can see here where being a rich person and being foolish, number one, is not uncommon, but it's also very, very unsatisfying, not only to yourself, but to those who could have been a blessing through what God has given to you. All right. Any other comments or questions on that section? All right. That last portion here, he says, so is one who's treasuring up for himself and not rich towards God. We want to be rich towards God. In other words, we want to feel that God can use everything that I have. And so it's important that we have that. All right, let's move on to our next study 161, Watchfulness and Faithfulness. Let's take a listen.
Story 161, Watchfulness and Faithfulness. Let your loins be girded, and the lamps burning, and be like men waiting for their Lord when he returns from the wedding feasts, that when he comes and knocks, immediately they would open to him. Blessed are those slaves, whom when the Lord comes, he will find watching. Truly I say to you, that he will gird himself, and he will cause them to sit, and he will come and minister to them. And if he comes in the second watch, or if he comes in the third watch and finds it so, those slaves are blessed. Be on the alert, therefore, because you do not know what hour your Lord, the Son of Man, comes. And know this, that if the master of the house had known in what hour the thief came, he would have watched, and would not have permitted his house to be broken into. Therefore, because of this, you also be ready, because the Son of Man will come in an hour that you do not think. And Peter said to him, Lord, do you speak this parable to us, or to everyone as well? And the Lord said, Who then is the faithful and wise slave, whom the Lord will set over his household, to give them the portion of food in season? Blessed is that slave whom his Lord will find doing so when he comes. Truly I say to you, that he will set him over all his possessions. And if that evil slave says in his heart, My Lord delays in coming, and he begins to beat the male slaves and the female slaves, and to eat and to drink, and to be drunk with the drunken, the Lord of that slave will come in a day in which he does not expect to look for him, and in an hour that he does not know. And he will cut him off, and he will assign his portion with the hypocrites and unbelievers. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And that slave who knows his Lord's will and does not prepare, nor going according to his will be beaten with many stripes. And he who not having known, and having done things worthy of stripes, will be beaten with few. And to everyone to whom much was given, much will be required from him. And to whom they entrusted much, of him they will ask more abundantly.
All right. More personal responsibility. All right. So once again, we're looking at this as an overall, and the Lord is basically saying that if you know what to do, you've been instructed on the things of God, and choose not to do it, you are only going to really hurt yourself. In a nutshell, he's saying, if you have understanding and choose not to use it, that's not a good thing. Those who have been giving much will be required of much. All right. Now, as we break this down when we go through it line by line, keep that in mind, that the bottom line is that you should do what you know to do. Go on and start taking on the maturity of the spiritual growth that you have already. And start doing what you know to do. There are things that when things happen that you should know, oh, I should thank God for that. Or I thank God for this. And that should be never ending. Well, I'll thank God for everything. Well, that's true. But then oftentimes as things happen, you thank God as they happen. It should be an ongoing what? Relationship. Remember, our walk with the Lord is a personal relationship. All right? It's not one that you have with an inanimate object. Now, for instance, when you open your refrigerator and the refrigerator is cold, you don't look at the refrigerator and say, oh, thank you, refrigerator, for keeping everything cold. Because It's not. It's an inanimate object. You don't communicate with the refrigerator. You just the only time you concerned about the refrigerator is when you open it up and you feel warm air coming out. That's when it's an issue. But if it's doing what it's supposed to do, you're not even mindful to even consider it because it's an inanimate object. Well, people are not like that. People build on relationships. So when people do things and assist and help, even though they've done it for a while, you still do what? Appreciate. And you think, because you don't treat them like you would treat an inanimate object. I don't think a hammer, because after I use it to knock in a nail, I go, I thank you for really being, strong and made of steel and everything. I don't need to do that. But then if I'm out there working on something and somebody is helping me and they give me some assistance, I do say what? Thank you. I appreciate that. Because that's the relationship that we have. Wow. It's the same thing with the Lord. That's why we are building a personal relationship. Some people treat God like how we oftentimes treat a refrigerator or a hammer. We use it without even the consideration of giving it thanks. And recognizing that it is God that has blessed. All right. Now, when you think all about it, suppose you had to make your own hammer. You know how to do it. You know how to smelt the steel, make it hard, make it so that the steel is strong enough and it won't bend under hitting things that are hard and it won't crack. Who knows how to do that? All right. What about making your own refrigerator? All right. Do we really know how to go out and get the steel, get the stuff, put the plastic together, get the electrical stuff? Who knows how to do that? I sure don't. But we thank God that our society knows. Well, it's the same thing with God. But yet God is personal. He's not inanimate. He's real. He's not just abstract. And so when we deal with God, we have to make sure that we see him like that. And that helps to build your personal relationship. So he goes on, Jesus is teaching here, and he says, let your loins be girded and your lamps be burning. In other words, he's saying, live your life every day knowing what God has said. God said, I'm coming back. Well, when is he coming back? I don't know. But so what he's saying is, if you believe what he said, live it each day. I'm going to accept the fact that he's coming back. I don't know. It could be today, could be tomorrow, could be 10 years from now. I don't know. But I'm going to live each day ready. So therefore, I don't take no days off. You know what? I'm not even going to. I don't think I want to even bother about this living for God stuff. I got to close my Bible and close my mind. Maybe I got to revisit it in 5 years. Well, if you know the truth about God, that's not a good decision, because then what that does is it's basically turning your back on what you know. We're going to see this in a minute. And he says, when you know to do right and don't do it, you're going to be beaten with what? Many stripes. Let's go on. It says, and be like men waiting for their Lord when he returns from a wedding feast. All right. So back then, when they would have situations where they would be feasting, especially during the wedding, they would be gone for several days. All right. But yet they would leave. When they would leave their house under the responsibility of the servants. You maintain this, you keep this in order, you keep this, and then when this wedding feast is over, and sometimes it wasn't a prescribed day. Sometimes it was over when it was over. When the food ran low or whatever the case may be, when they said, okay, you have to think it's time to go. So it wasn't like they said, well, we're going to go for 10 days and come back. It could be, it could be 5 days, could be 10 days, could be 15. Who knows? Who knows how long the party is going to be going. But then at the same time, since you don't know, you keep maintaining the house until he does what? Come back. Then when he comes and knocks, immediately they will open unto him. They don't have to he's back. Let's go scurry and fix up something. They can open what? Immediately, because we've been keeping things up as we go. Moment by moment, day by day. All right? I remember when I was growing up, when I got old enough and I didn't have to go to a babysitter, I would come home from school, and I was actually in the 4th grade. It's amazing how times have changed. I was in the 4th and 5th grade, and I would come home, and but my responsibilities, I was given things to do. So you ain't just gonna sit at the house. I had to make the bed, I had to vacuum the living room, and I had to wash the dishes. Those are my responsibilities when I got home. Well, after a while, I learned how to do that stuff quick. So I would not come straight home. I would go to the center. You know, and then go down there and we play basketball or shoot pool or do some stuff. But I knew what time I needed to get home in time to scurry around and do it. Now, sometimes I would cut it so close to where, you know, I kind of slap some water on them dishes and dishes be greasy. And just kind of throw the spread over the bed, and then when my mom would come home, I'd be in the process of vacuuming, you know, or at least I'm doing my, when it should have been done. And you know, you look back on it now, they knew, because they know what was you doing? It don't take all day to vacuum nor make your bed. Those are like 5-minute tasks. So why? And then when they go in and they get the dishes and they're all dirty anyway. So you think you're getting over, but you're really not anyway. But that was the mindset that I had, that I wanted to just, but that's the problem. So what I was doing, you know, when I was in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, trying to pretend that I came home and I did my chores, when I didn't. I was hanging out where I wasn't supposed to be. And then trying to make it look like I was doing it. So a lot of times we'll find ourselves in situations like that when it comes to dealing with the Lord. But the problem is that even though my mom probably already knew, because as you get older you begin to realize, you know, people, grown folks ain't crazy. They know. And especially when you become a parent. You be like, because they tell you this and you be like, all right. And she never said anything, but I knew she knew now that I'm. Well, what about God? Does God know? Of course he does. So when you're trying to just do whatever it is that you're trying to do and manipulate and get over, and the one thing you never will be able to do is to get over on God. So if your heart is not there, then you're only fooling who? Yourself. Because God is not fooled. God is not like, well, I really thought they had it together. No, God knows. No, you're just going through those steps. You don't have it together. You're just trying to make it look right, but you're not there. And so, and he says, blessed are the slaves or the servants of the Lord. That's another word that we can use for that. But during those times, they would have slaves when they went out to the wedding feast. And the slaves were the ones that were responsible for the house. Whom, when the Lord comes, he will find watching. So I'm trying to work. What you need, the Wi-Fi? Okay. I'm trying to work so that when he comes, things are done. I don't have to worry about trying to get caught up. I don't have to worry about trying to make sure that things are starting to get done at the last second. I'm doing it when I'm supposed to do it, as I'm supposed to do it. And you'll find that usually is an easier way. Right? Truly I say to you, he will gird himself. And gird, that was a phrase they used back in the day when you were actually ready to do things and get things done. You would have those togas that they would wear. And in order to be able to move quickly, they would have to take the togas and tie them up. So it would be won't be so much length on the leg, and now you're able to, if you needed to run or you needed to do various things, you could do it without the garment getting in the way. So that was girding yourself up to be prepared to get things done. And he will cause them to sit, and he will come and minister to them. So he will come and he will talk to them and share with them and give them things. And if he comes in the second watch, or if he comes in the third watch, and finds it so, those slaves or those servants are what? Are blessed. All right. So he goes, now, that's the way we should be. We should be able to do like that. The Lord is not here where he's constantly looking me in the eyeballs, but yet you know he's here. So therefore, understand as we try to grow, you don't want to be fake, you don't want to be phony, but you do want to grow. And when you have weaknesses, you tell God, I got a weakness. But at the same time, I'm not going to pretend I don't and then go on and not try to develop. The thing that you want to do is what? Get better. So then he goes on and says, be on alert, therefore, because you do not know what hour your Lord, the Son of Man, comes. You don't know what time the Lord's going to come. All right? Is he coming this year or is he coming next year? Is he coming 10 years from now or 100 years from now? Whenever he comes, that's when he's going to be here. But you should be what? You should be ready now. And know this, that if the master of the house had known in what hour the thief comes, he would have watched and would not have permitted his house to be broken into. So it's like that when it comes down to dealing with a situation. When you leave your house, do you leave your house saying, a thief's coming by today? You don't know when the thief's coming by, do you? So therefore, that's why each day you should do what? Do the things you're supposed to do. You don't want to leave your door wide open. You don't want, you want to do the protective things. And so you're always thinking, I still have to prepare and secure my house. Well, same thing. In life, I still have to prepare and secure my soul. Because there is a thief coming to what? Steal your soul. So each day you have to do what? Protect your soul. Just like you protect your house. You don't leave your car and leave the door open and the keys sitting on the top of the hood. You don't do that. Because you know that there's a thief out around that will do what? Steal it. Well, there's a thief trying to steal your soul. Or every day, every moment of every day, Satan's trying to steal, kill, and destroy. So therefore we got to protect ourselves from that. Therefore, because of this, you also be ready. Because the Son of Man will come in an hour that you think not. All right? So are you prepared? Are you prepared today? If not, you should get prepared. And Peter said to him, Lord, do you speak this parable to us? In other words, he's saying, are you saying that we are not going to know either? Now, these are the ones that are walking with Jesus, his disciples, or to everyone else. So Peter wants to know, are you telling us that we're not going to know? Now, we're close to you, Lord. We walk with you all the time. Are you trying to tell me that I'm not going to know when you're going to come back either? Or is it just, you talking that to everybody else? Because my walk with God is closer than your walk with God. So you might not know. But, I'm deeper and I will know. Well, let's look at what he says. And the Lord said, who then is a faithful and wise slave, whom the Lord will set over his household to give to him the portion of food in season? All right, so he says, well, who is that faithful one? And he's basically saying, well, Peter, you guys are the ones. You guys are the faithful ones. You're the ones who I'm going to be giving things to. I'm going to be giving this to you. So you guys are faithful. But then he goes, blessed is that slave, or that servant, who his Lord will find will find doing so when he comes. So in other words, he's telling Peter, if you're faithful, I'm going to give you all promises belong to you. But you still need to be what? Faithful. Right? Don't think that, because you are blessed of God and you got the Spirit of God, that, I can just, chill out. And you can see how this story connects to the previous story. Sometimes we can say, it's not so much that I got the riches. I got the Spirit. I done read through the Bible, 4 or 5 times. I'm going to sit back now and just chill. No, we're still what? Working for the Lord. We're still those servants of the Lord. So the Lord is letting Peter know. Peter, you don't have it made. It's the relationship that you have with me is what makes you who you are. But you still prepare yourself. So blessed is that slave or that servant whom his Lord will find so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you, that he will set him over all his possessions. That's the promise. All right? And if the evil slave say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming. So he's sitting there going, God ain't coming back no time soon. I can do what I want to do, and then maybe 10, 12 years from now, maybe I'll think about getting my heart to the Lord. Well, number one, there's no guarantee that it's 10, 12 years from now that your heart will be in that condition to give to the Lord. Because you remember Pharaoh. When Moses first came to Pharaoh, the Bible said Pharaoh hardened his heart. Moses went away, came back again. Pharaoh hardened his heart. Moses went away, came back again. Did several more times. Pharaoh hardened his heart. Well, towards the latter portion, you don't hear Pharaoh harden his heart. You know what you hear? God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Because what God did was God set him in his way. Okay, if this is the way you want to be. Now, a lot of times people say you are set for eternity once you what? Die. The way you die is the way you shall rise. All right, and if you die holy, you will rise holy. If you die ungodly, you're going to rise ungodly. Now, but yet there are those whom God will freeze while they're here on this earth in a state because they've chosen that. But then allow them to continue to live in that state. That's what you call the walking or the living dead. There's TV shows like that, isn't it? The living dead. Right? And so there are a lot of people, I won't say a lot, there are those whom the Lord has allowed to continue to live but have already been damned. And that's not what you want to be. But when you play with God like that, that's where that comes from. And that's what Pharaoh did. I'm going to let you go. No, you ain't going to go. I'm going to let you go. No, you get out of here. You ain't. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to serve God. No, I ain't serving him. I'm going to serve God. No, I'm not serving him. And you've seen the power of God. And God didn't what? He locks you in. Okay? Now, I won't open the door because you got to keep in mind. There are two phases to what the scripture tells us. The Bible says, whosoever will, let him what? Come. But then the scripture also says that the Lord has what? Drawn you. The Lord has called you. So you can't come to the Lord if God don't what? Call you. So if God stops calling you, then you're locked. And that's what you don't want. So in this type of situation, Jesus is talking about these individuals. And he began to beat the male slaves and the female slaves, and to eat and to drink and to be drunken, and to be drunk with drunkenness. The Lord of that slave will come in a day in which he does not expect. Now, that's an important thing to keep in mind, that the Lord will come in a day that you don't get it. You think you know what's going on. Well, it can't happen now, it can't happen then. And your theology gets what? All confused. See, there's a lot of very brilliant, smart people that have real bad theology. They're very intelligent. I mean, but they're not, they talk about spiritual stuff. But their theology is off because the theology is based upon things that cater to what they want to see happen and how they believe it should happen, as opposed to reading scripture and let the scripture tell you how it's supposed to happen. Okay? So it makes no sense for you to get a map on how to go from here to Florida and you say, but I want to take 84 and 81. Well, 84 and 81 is not taking you to Florida. But that's the way I want to go. Well, you can take that, but you're not going to end up there. So why have the map and then tell them, and then you are not going to utilize the information that the map gives you? Same thing. Why know the Lord? Why have the word? But then you're going to say, well, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it anyway. Because the word is here to instruct us. Now, if we knew the way, we wouldn't need it. We wouldn't need it. If you knew how to get where you need to get to, you don't need a map. And if you knew how to get to heaven and get eternal life on your own, just go ahead and do it, you wouldn't need the word. You wouldn't need God. But we don't have the authority, the power, the instructions, nor the know-how. We can't do it. But we know who can. That's why Jesus told Philip, you know the way. And Philip disagreed with Jesus. He goes, we don't know the way. And that's how sometimes I always find it interesting that God knows more about what you know than what you know. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So Philip was like, I don't know how to get there. And Jesus was like, yes, you do. But Philip was like, we don't know the way. Mm-hmm. And Jesus was like, you know. Mm-hmm. You just keep walking every day and you'll find yourself there. You keep doing what you've been doing. You don't know that adding what you did yesterday to what you're doing today to what you're going to do tomorrow, and you keep and it's going to get you to where you need to be because you're following me. So because you're following me, guess what? I am the way. So therefore, you do know the way. All right? But the way is to what? Follow me. But they didn't even believe they knew the way.
So God sees your potential before you believe it.
Exactly. He sees what you can be before you can even comprehend. I don't think I can do all of this stuff. I just no way I can do all that. I don't think this is possible for me.
It's like being a parent when you see your children.
Exactly. Yep. You see your kids and you're like, okay, well, and they pick up a few things here or there, and you know, and even and it's a good example like a parent, but even more so. Because even as a parent, we see little things here and there, and we're like, okay, well, let's gear him towards this. Or sometimes the kid's mechanical. Like, wow, this kid, he stacks blocks up so good and everything. And some kids can't stack up blocks. They don't care. They get 2 or 3 and they just can't do it. But that kid can go on and get on the computer and just, oh, look at this kid. He's only 2 years old. Look at him. So you find little things that they can do, and you what? You encourage them. You know, you find kids that can run. Like I had to tell my daughter, I said, listen, you know, I don't know when or how or if it will, but I said, I will tell you this. My grandson Aiden, I go, he can run. He can run fast. I saw it with my own eyes. Because we were at Ocean City, and we had rented this house, and we had all the kids there, the grandkids, and it was a park across the street. We took them over there to the park, and him and his brother TJ, they was playing around, but this lady was out there with a dog. Somehow or another, the dog got off the leash, and the dog, he was just running around playing, whatever. Aiden saw that dog, and Aiden was in the wind, man. He was moving. And I was looking at him, and I was like, this boy can run fast. Now, he may need to have a dog behind him to run that fast again, but his ability, I was like, and he was moving, and he was turning and cutting and everything, and he wasn't losing his balance, and he came right around, right over here to Grandpa. And the dog came around, he was just being playful. He was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was like, no, it's okay. He's fine. He was just a little scared. I said, but one thing I do know, I said, I know this boy can run if he need to. So you see those little things, right? And I say that to say that God knows and he sees what we have. And plus, God knows what he put in us. God knows what's in us. And he knows why we have the struggles. He also allowed the enemy to plant certain things, just like he allowed the enemy to plant things with Job. Because in order for the seed that God has in you to happen, the devil has to sometimes throw his dirt and mud on top of it. But that's really what the seed uses to produce what's in it. Right? And so the seed needs sometimes the dirt and the mud to be thrown on top of it, and the rain and all that. And all it does, and in the beginning, it don't look like it's doing nothing, because when the seed first begins to germinate, it's not coming out the ground. The dirt and the mud still covers it over, and the seed just starts producing what? Roots. But yet, those roots are what God's going to use to help stabilize and grow the tree. There was an experiment that was done about they were trying to see how plants would grow if they wanted to plant some seeds like in outer space or on Mars or on the moon. And so they created this greenhouse, and they were growing these different things. The one thing they realized when they growing these greenhouses was that when they grew the trees, that after a while, when the trees got a certain height, the trees would just fall over. And they were trying to say, well, why are the trees, when they get a certain height, they just fall over? They lose them, they don't have any balance. And what they realized was, as the tree was growing, because it was enclosed in this thing, it had no wind blowing against it. And what they realized is the wind blowing against the tree shakes the tree enough to where the roots of the tree move the ground, and allows the ground to be a little more loose and get some more cracks, so the roots can then do what? Grow deeper. And so the more wind it gets, the deeper the roots can grow. So therefore, it can withstand its own height. Some people, because they have no resistance, when they get so high, they have to fall over because they've never had enough resistance to build what? Roots.
That's
So
why people fall apart when things happen.
when they get blessed. Mm-hmm.
Because it's been kind of easy, and they've never had to struggle and deal with things, and then they fall apart when something happens.
Exactly.
And somebody else could go through that and they say, it's not, it's not that bad.
Mhm.
It's not that bad.
Exactly.
Okay.
See, you remember during the Great Depression, the time there were certain people that were used to being wealthy, they committed suicide because they didn't have no money. They didn't know how to live without what? Without money. Whereas the people that had a little bit, they worked themselves up, but they remember, I struggled. They realized, well, I lost it all, but I just go back to where I was. I've been there before, and I can build it back up again. So they struggle, and that's why I say that the seed that God put in you, He will allow the enemy to come and throw all kinds of mud and stuff on it. And then as you grow, He allows all kinds of winds of adversity to hit you. Because in order for you to get to the level and to the height that you need to get to, you need to be able to be rooted in the things of God to a certain level or a certain degree. Now a little rose bush, as pretty as it looks, don't need the same root structure as an oak tree. Oak tree needs more root structure. All right, so it's because it's going to be dealing with what? More wind. Because if you're up that high, you're getting hit with every wind. Whereas the little rose bush, it's not going to get hit with as much. So the point of understanding all of this is that you do need to make sure that you're prepared, that you are doing what's right, that you see that God sees you in all circumstances, that your heart is ready, whether you actually are standing before the presence of God or just know by faith that you're in the presence of God and you're still trying to do what's right. So he concludes with this, and we will conclude with this as well. And he who not knowing and having done things worthy of stripes will be beaten with few. All right. So if you have not known, and actually I think I skipped the other one on top. Let me read that again. Just go back up to Luke 12:47. And the slave who knows his Lord's will and does not prepare, nor going according to his will be beaten with many stripes. In other words, you're going to suffer a lot of loss, a lot of pain, a lot of destruction, because you know what to do, but you have not prepared and have not done it. And he who not having known and have done things worthy of stripes will be beaten with few. In other words, so you're still going to get hit, but you won't get hit with what? As many. Your troubles won't be as many because you didn't know. So the key is what he's about to say now. And to everyone to whom much is given, much will be required from him. So when God has blessed you with much, God's going to what? Expect much out of you. And to whom they entrust much, of him that will ask more abundantly. All right. So when you are blessed of God and God has given you many things, He's expecting you to utilize the gifts that He's given you. All right. We go back to the parable of the talent. The man that was given the one talent, he was expected to do what? Produce one. But the man that was given 5, he was expected to produce something with what? All 5. So when you're given multiple gifts, God expects you to use all of them. Now, the guy that was given 1 talent, what did he do? He buried it. But God said, no, that's not the way you do it either. Just because you have 1 talent, that doesn't mean you bury it. He called that person a wicked and what? Unprofitable servant. So when you look at these stories that we looked at today, it's dealing with the aspect of seeing that God has in you the ability to do things mainly for others in the name of the Lord Jesus. That's the bottom line. The rich man that had the barn, but they tried to build the extra barns, he was focused on himself. This individual here, the person whose master went away, and while he's away, he said, while the cat's away, the mice will play. All right. So when you're doing that, you're still thinking about what? Yourself, not your work, responsibilities. When you give your heart to the Lord, you now have the responsibility of representing who? Jesus. You are his representative. You are his ambassador. And you have to keep that in mind. All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. So we thank God for that. We're going to stop there. And Lord willing, we'll pick up again on next week with story number 62. Division in the house. And that's going to be interesting to talk about as well. All right. So we're going to stop here.